What does it mean to be a Detroit Charter Commissioner? A lot of individuals don't know exactly what this position entails, but don't know about the importance of this position. What exactly is it?
Yes. So the Charter Commissioner serves on the Charter Commission. It's a 9-member body that is asked to look at whether or not we revise the city's constitution. That's what the charter is the city's constitution. You think of the governing document. We have the United States Constitution, the state constitution. Well, the city has one also, and it's called the charter. Mm-hmm. And it outlines basically what powers we have as elected officials, as citizens, as appointed employees, as regular employees. It outlines all of the powers and how government operates, how government runs. It's a very, very important document. It is our baseline governing document for this city.
So, I mean, obviously, is you don't want to be revising a constitution all the time,
right? Right.
And so, but there might have to be some needs to make amendments. So, if those needs do arise, we want to make sure we have the right people in place to make those amendments. So, let's talk about your background and exactly what makes you feel that you are the right person to make these amendments, if there are any amendments that need to be made.
Yeah, I mean, and I didn't necessarily believe that amendments were absolutely necessary. I mean, I of course, with any contract, with any document, with any piece of legislation, you're going to see things that you should change, that you can make better. But amending the Constitution should be something that's fairly rare, in my opinion. But I've been negotiating union contracts and writing legislation for the last 20 years. I'm an attorney that represents unions, never employers, represents civil employees or individuals with civil rights matters, discrimination, labor and employment discrimination. So I'm a litigator by trade. And so I've sued under the charter a number of times. The city of Detroit.
So you've actually had to become very familiar with how the charter operates and with the wording of the charter in order to make sure that the city is being held accountable to what the charter actually is saying.
Absolutely. I mean, I can remember just to call a number of instances where the city, there's a provision in the charter, for instance, it's Chapter 6, Section 307, called the Privatization Ordinance, and it requires that the city it's called the Privatization Charter section. It requires that the city adopt an ordinance which lays out how we outsource our work, how we spend our tax dollars. So if we hire a trucking company, we want to make sure that the trucking company that's going to pick up the garbage for us, the garbage pickup, that company is going to be responsible to citizens, that the price is good, that it's not going to have a negative impact on the community, not going to have a negative impact on the workers. I mean, so there's a number of things that you have to do and look at before you just start spending city money on contractors. And that provision is in the ordinance. We've had to sue over that provision a number of times.
And what exactly what was the city not abiding by what the contract was saying? And so it seems as if it's pretty important stuff.
Yeah. I mean, think about how important we spent. What is it? I think $6 or $8 million, I believe it was, on the garbage pickup contract. There are contracts where we spend tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, city tax dollars spent on contractors, and we want to make sure we have an obligation, I believe, to make sure that if the contractor is bidding for that dollar, that they have to prove a number of things that they're going to make sure to be responsible with the services that they're providing to us.
And so, and we've seen a history, especially in this city, where many individuals who were awarded contracts, not necessarily because they were good or qualified in order to do the job, but it was almost as if it was like, hey, it's an old boy network, it's a buddy, and I know this individual, or favors or something like that. The charter actually will help to make sure that these things don't happen, that we are actually getting awarding contracts on the up and up.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's another provision in Chapter 4 which outlines the city council's responsibilities that we've had to sue under to make sure that it's the city council that outsourced that has responsibility to spend city dollars, that it's city council that gives away property. I mean, if you remember whether it was Cobo Hall, Eastern Market, a number of other things where the city's property has been given away to third parties. There were other instances, not those examples, but other instances where the city, gave away some of its property. And we said, wait a minute, City Charter 4-112 says that the city council has a voice in that. And so we had to go into court and deal with it. So, there's been a number of instances that we've had to address the charter in court. And so I've become familiar with it. I've had to review it, closely in certain sections. It's some very important provisions. I mean, in the charter, there's a right for the workers to have the right to collectively bargain. That's in the city charter. So that means if the city's workers want to establish a union, in the charter it says they have the right to do that. In the charter it says that the employees, even if you're not in a union, have the right to have their discharge heard by an arbitrator. So those are important things that are in the charter, important rights that we want to make sure that our city workers are treated fairly and that we have the right city workers doing the job. And those things are important protections in the charter for them.
Well, it seems as if because you have such a high familiarity, or do you? You have a very keen and unique knowledge of what the charter says, and actually are actually applying the charter in your day-to-day job. Is this normal for individuals? I mean, I've heard that many times individuals will use this role as a stepping stone to other political offices. It seems as if this is not the case for you. This seems like this is more something, it's right in your wheelhouse. It's something that you like to do, something that you're already doing by analyzing on a day-to-day basis. So it seems like it's almost just an extension of your current job description.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, honestly, then during the last revision process from 2009 to 2011, I was a subject matter expert for the commission on privatization. So just like in other charter revisions, there was an effort by the mayor in that case to try to, make the mayor's office more powerful, have more influence, more ability to be flexible with what he wanted to do. And it's not a knock on any particular mayor. They all do that. I mean, that's part of the process, I suppose. I push back on it and say that I think the citizens ought to be more empowered, not necessarily the mayor's office, but it ought to be the citizens. And it ought to be a good way for the charter to work together so that there is a good balance of power between the two branches. But I was the expert who said we don't need to weaken the requirement that privatization go through a certain battery of tests. Fortunately, that provision wasn't changed. So I decided I can be on the outside and continue telling them what I think, or I might as well just join. And again, I've written legislation. I was part of the group to write some of the grand bargain legislation to try to protect workers' rights as best we could there. The state legislation. I negotiate union contracts. So what I do is write language. So I figured I might as well not be on the outside, but be on the inside helping out, putting what I think is best.